What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kick-Ass Podcast. As always, I hope you're having a fantastic week or weekend wherever you're at when you're listening to this. I'm so happy to be back. This is one of my favorite things to do is to sit down and talk wrestling with you guys, even though technically you are listening to me after I record this, but it's still cool to kind of talk wrestling or talk out into the void and to just hear feedback from you guys. So as always, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys for checking out the show and downloading and listening, streaming, all that good stuff. As always, you can follow the show on Twitter at @KickashPodcast_. You can follow me on Twitter at ASHMANNS. But today it's going to be a little bit of a variety show. And if I end up posting the visuals for this, thank you for checking it out on YouTube as well. If not, you can always stream it from YouTube, the audio portion. And of course, with Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. But if you guys have listened to me in the past, you're pretty familiar with that. So, again, thank you so much for checking it out. Like I said, we are going to have a little bit of a variety show here today. I'm not going to hang around too long. Just wanted to sit down and just catch up on some stuff that's kind of transpired this week. Nothing too crazy, thankfully, in our world. But just kind of catch up on what's going on, some stories that broke recently, and kind of gearing towards WrestleMania. I'm super stoked and excited for WrestleMania this year. I think it's going to be a really good weekend. Of course, WrestleMania is 2 nights, Saturday and Sunday, which I love. I think it's really cool that they are continuing to go with that 2 night formula. It just gives it a different vibe, a different feeling and a bigger feeling. And especially when you have the talent and the depth to substantiate a requirement or a need for 2 nights rather. So like I said, we'll get right into it. But first, we're going to start off with AEW. There hasn't been too much going on in AEW world, but some interesting things that I personally listen to. I don't know if you guys will kind of start off with this. I don't know if you guys have checked out Renee Paquette's YouTube show. I think she changed it to just the Sessions. Is the name of it now? It used to be Oral Sessions. But I think she kind of changed the name. Even though it was pretty. I think the first title Oral Sessions was pretty good, but I can understand why she may need to change it, or needed to have changed it rather. But yeah, whatever. If you haven't checked it out, I really enjoyed that interview with her and Kenny Omega. I'm not sure about how long ago they sat down and recorded it, but I think I watched it myself within this past week. I think it was maybe 45 minutes or so in length, but it was really intriguing to me. If you guys have listened to me in the past, I was one of those newer fans to Kenny Omega when AEW first started in 2019. I had heard of him, obviously, and I did end up going back and watching the match between him and Chris Jericho in New Japan, of course. And Tony Khan had said in some interview, I can't recall where exactly, but that was one of the, and probably numerous times at this point, but that was one of the matches that kind of sparked his idea for AEW and the want from his side to start another company. So it's just really cool to think of the history and just kind of go back. And I think that match was in 2016, Kenny Omega and Jericho, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, it still holds up to this day. It's one of those matches that, especially now looking back on the ramifications that have happened and kind of transpired since then, it's just really cool. But with all that being said, I was one of those fans who was not that familiar with Kenny. So I was super excited for AEW, of course, for multiple reasons, but to learn who Kenny Omega is, and to learn the character of Kenny Omega. Of course, I knew him as the cleaner, and you heard all of his monikers and nicknames and things like that, and the best bout machine and all that good stuff. So I was really excited. That being said, we'll kind of keep the AEW character progression, or in my opinion, maybe I don't want to say the lack thereof, but just I have wanted more for Kenny Omega or from Kenny Omega, and not in a negative way. Like, I don't mean that in a negative aspect, I guess I should say, but I just want more. I want to learn more of who he is on screen. Just more character development, not to be judgy in that sense, but I wanted to learn more. You know what I mean? So that long-winded answer and setup to say I really enjoyed him sitting down with Kenny, with Renee, even though it was obviously probably through Zoom or something. It was a virtual interview, but like I said, they probably went about 45, 50 minutes or something like that. But I seek out those interviews, and I personally enjoyed it just because I got to learn a little bit more of Kenny Omega and the ideas behind the character and what the dude, I believe his real name is Tyson, which I never would have guessed, but just the thoughts and and the wants and desires and the goals and the ambition and things like that. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely check that out. Obviously, if you're a Kenny Omega fan, which you most likely are if you're watching this and listening to this. But with that being said, he did go on, obviously, to have other interviews as well regarding his future with AEW. Of course, his contract seems to be coming to an end here soon with AEW. And as of this recording, there's no extension that we, the people, have been made aware of. Or that we know of or anything yet. That I've obviously did a little bit of research prior to sitting down, so haven't seen anything yet. But with that being said, especially after listening and watching his interview with Renee, and then going off of this interview that he did here, which I'll kind of read off of and then give my 2 cents. But he sat down with, it looks like, CBC's Front Burner, which I hadn't heard of prior to this, but shout out to them and shout out to WrestlePurist.com for the transcription of everything as well. So I appreciate that, guys. But Kenny spoke on the idea of going to WWE, who stated a new challenge always appeals to him, but it's all about what he feels most suited for. And that was kind of the vibe that he was going within the Renee interview as well. But he said, quote, "I think at this point, anything new appeals to me, and challenges also always appeal to me. At one point, it was one of those, if you say I can't do it, I really want to do it. Now, it's not that. I would say I'm older and wiser. It's more like I'm older and I could care less that it's more about what kinds of people I can reach, what kind of positive thing can I contribute, and what do I even feel best suited for." And then it says, when I asked if the answer was maybe, Omega would continue, right? I mean, again, it's all place and time. Like, we haven't even reached that time yet. And, being able to start this real cool thing with a lot of my friends type of there, and people that I respect in the industry. We started this Kool-Aid thing, and here we are in Winnipeg, the place I was born, the place where I spent a chunk of time carving my teeth in professional wrestling. And it's like, what do I do? What would have happened if I had been satisfied with just staying in Winnipeg? What would have happened if I had that sort of old song and dance of, hey, you're nothing until you go to the US, or is this what you need to strive to become, or is this where you need to go if you want to be considered anything, or to be considered a success, or to be taken seriously? I always kind of try to find my own way, or at least try to lean in the direction of where my heart is pulling me. And just right now, I'm taking things one step at a time. And with this Winnipeg show, it feels like, yeah, this is cool and this feels right. And what's next? I don't know, because nothing has spoken to me. Nothing is told to me, this is what you need to do, right? Just gotta love Kenny Omega, right? His just all over the place answer. You know what I mean? It's and again, that's why it's cool. To me personally, that's why I really enjoy watching his interviews, just listening to him. It's just really, really interesting. But they go on to say, continue to talk on his future. Kenny Omega said that his spidey sense hasn't been triggered yet on what he'll do next, which, before I read his quote, fucking love Spider-Man. He's the best superhero. I don't care what anyone says. So I love the spidey sense. Shout out there. But Kenny says, yeah, the spidey sense hasn't been triggered yet. So again, one day at a time. I want to get this Winnipeg show out of the way. I want it to be as successful to the point where we can announce we're coming back. Because I think it's really important, again, for us to embrace our Winnipeg wrestling culture. And of course, that was prior to the Winnipeg show that AEW did, which was last week. I believe time is a weird concept, as I always say. But so of course, that's not the Renee podcast that I was referring to. But it pretty much lines up to what he said there in Renee, well, with Renee rather. My opinion, I think we may be leaning towards a Kenny Omega WWE run. And I say that maybe just out of selfishness because I would love to see it. And not in any way of, I want him to leave AEW. I want it to be looked bad for AEW, or like another EVP leaving AEW, or any type of thing like that. For me personally, I can't speak for the rest of the wrestling community out there. Some interesting people out there. But for me, I just think it would be really intriguing. And who says it would even have to be like a permanent thing? Why can't he go to WWE for, I'm sure they would, I don't even know if they would offer him a year contract, right? I'm sure it would probably be like at least 2 to 3 year deal, which would make sense. It gives you time to get the homecoming, or not homecoming, but like that honeymoon feeling type vibe off, really get into the meat and potatoes of the schedule, working with the roster and things like that, and then to go from there. So I think that's why at least 3 years would be my assumption of what would be offered. But again, my speculation there. But with that being said, like why? So if let's say he does go to WWE, whether he either be somewhat like halfway through this year or maybe at the end of this year, end of 2023, beginning of 2024. Um, I think it would be cool. It wouldn't have to be a permanent thing. Like I said, he could go there for what, 3 years. If he likes it, stays great. If he doesn't like it, I'm sure AEW will still be around. Go from there. So I don't know. I don't see. Yeah, and I of course I get the perception that would be out there, right? But to me, I think as a character and as a talent, I would really love to see what Kenny Omega can do in WWE, especially with Triple H being in charge and with a different creative direction being in charge of WWE. And yeah, of course, there was reports that Vince was backstage at the Boston show, but again, to me, until we see a drastic change on television itself, I don't see. Um, I'm not panicking. I guess we'll just leave it at that in regards to Vince being back or taking charge and the creative direction or anything like that. But yeah, man, I don't know. I just something in me just feels like Kenny's going to be in WWE within the next year. And like I said, I'm pretty confident. I mentioned it on this show in the past. There's so much that he can do, right? I mean, the story with him and Cody just tells itself right there. And then imagine if MJF ends up making his way over. And again, like I hate, and I almost even kind of feel bad speaking about this because I love AEW. I went to the first show. Like I don't know. I'm not a person who wants to see people jump ship one way or another for the negative aspect of it or anything like that. I want to see it just for the story aspect, for the fan aspect, for our selfish enjoyment. You know what I mean? And vice versa. Like there's tons of people that are in WWE that I would love to see in AEW. You know what I mean? And we've already gotten that. So yes, again with him being an EVP, part of the elite, part of the foundation of what started AEW, I totally get the perception, but I think the fact that you could get so much good out of it and so much story and character development and just like a real I don't know, I just feel like if Kenny ended up in WWE, I just feel like they would know what to do with him. I feel like Triple H would know what to do. I feel like it'd be one of those things where like they would mutually sit down and Triple H or whoever so obviously Triple H would be involved, but whoever would be involved there, they would just sit down a small group and just okay, explain what you think Kenny Omega is and explain to us what Kenny Omega is, and then just kind of bounce ideas off of each other and just give Kenny not even bullet points, but just maybe just like a title, and say this is what we want and this is like our idea, and just have him go do his thing. Um, I just think it'd be really cool. And I think, especially like I said in the Renee interview, he was saying how, and even with this, how the next thing is what really excites him now. I feel like he's mostly done everything in AEW. He's been the champion. He's had a great babyface run, a great heel run, and yeah, we could have probably gotten a little bit more out of both. But I think for right now, and I mean, he's already become the trios champions twice now. We've had his match with Bryan Danielson. We've had so much from Kenny, and of course, there's still a shit ton that he can do, right? In AEW, I'm not writing him off. We're saying that he should be wrote off or anything like that, but I don't know. I feel like now it's not now or never, but now is a really amped time to go. Um, so yeah, that's my 2 cents with Kenny Omega. And again, I'm pretty confident I've already spoken about it in the past, but with that interview coming out and then a article coming out regarding their non-compete clauses and their contracts, which I was really interested in finding out about. So we'll migrate into that next topic, but because it obviously kind of plays in not directly, but if and when Kenny, because and the thing with the non-compete clauses is you have to be fired, right, or quit during the while your contract is still in effect. If your contract expires or runs out, it doesn't kick in because that's not the point of it. But it's reported, I believe it was by Fightful. Let me double check. I'm reading my report off of Wrestle Purist, of course, but I believe it was first broken. Oh no, it was with Andrew Zarin. So shout out to Andrew. But Russell Peters stated they just went back on the history. Again, Dynamite's inception was October of 2019. Just kind of going back to the beginning of that. But Oh, it was from Fightful. Sorry about that. The Andrew Zarian is my next article for you guys, which I thought was pretty interesting as well, which obviously we'll get to in a second. But they stated that on January 5th, earlier this year, the Federal Trade Commission, which I remember, which is what first kind of put the seed I thought in my mind, like I wonder like how AEW contracts are built, because we haven't really heard much. Obviously, they're 3.5 years around at this point, but we still don't know much about it, which again is none of my business. Just curiosity, right? Kill the cat type thing. But the Federal Trade Commission proposed a ruling to ban non-compete clauses in all labor contracts, which of course would affect the independent contractors, which are wrestlers. It's still mind blowing to me they're not employees. But apparently, Fightful Select reported that AEW does not have actual non-compete clauses. They stated based on the contracts that Fightful has seen within AEW and numerous talent they have spoken to, there aren't any non-compete clauses attached to many of them. Well, many of them, so maybe there's a handful. Non-competes are standard in WWE deals, with main rosters lasting 90 days and NXT's lasting a general 30 days. However, All Elite Wrestling doesn't seem to have any. So that, of course, was reported by Fightful, and the transcription I'm reading from is from Russell Pierce. So again, shout out to all you guys. But they go on to say when Fightful then added to this, stating that when they asked AEW sources for further information, they were told that the company doesn't typically release talent anyway unless there's a special request or a necessity for disciplinary measures, and thus non-compete clauses haven't been a priority, which just spoke on. Non-compete clauses effectively extend the life of an expiring contract. However, these often require the talent to agree to the terms. In terms of the few examples we have to analyze thus far, Fightful were told that it's generally been a case-by-case basis for AEW. They do go on to say one high-profile example of non-compete potentially coming into play on the AEW side of things could affect CM Punk, with Fightful noting that everyone they spoke to within the company believes that he'd likely to restrict from that was typo there, but he'd likely essentially be restricted from joining WWE for a period of time should he be released from his AEW contract. So yeah, so I mean, obviously, if the FTC makes a ruling and to ban non-compete clauses, WWE can't fight that shit. So it'd be very, very interesting, and yeah, it's just really interesting. I think is the best word for that. In the future to see what happens. We could go back to the Nitro days where we see one dude showing up, for instance, maybe on a Sunday pay-per-view, and then the next day showing up on Monday Night Raw, or vice versa, showing up on Raw one Monday and then traveling Tuesday and then showing up on Dynamite on Wednesday. Again, we probably won't, because that may ruffle some feathers. But again, maybe not, because your contract is over with. You're not doing anything wrong, but the implication of that, you know what I mean? Like back in the day when Lex Luger did it, it's the perception. Again, perception probably being the key word here tonight. But yeah, so it's just really interesting. And I'm very, very intrigued to see what stems and comes from that. And again, that was back in January, so we haven't heard any updates since, but it's only March now, so we shall see. But wrapping up with the AEW portion of things here, we have another kind of big announcement, which I'm surprised rather wasn't a major announcement or major breaking news or anything. But they, again, Russell Pierce, shout out to them for the transcription, states that All Elite Wrestling has, this was what I was reading earlier, they have been on our TV every Wednesday night since Dynamite's inception, stating, or going back to October 2019. The show is AEW's flagship program, which obviously we all know. Now it appears AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery are interested in adding another hour of wrestling to the weekly schedule. First reported by Andrew Zarian, so that's where he gets his credit out. Shout out to Andrew. The proposed third AEW show rather will be similar to a Rampage in that it will have a runtime of 1 hour. In terms of time and day, Zarian had took to Twitter to leave a possible hint suggesting that Saturdays was a likely option for the show. So if that ends up being the case, then we would have Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday for AEW, and then of course with their AEW All Access, which I believe will be following immediately after Dynamite, March 29th, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have my calendar pulled up. Yeah, which is not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. And I believe that's when Adam Cole is making his in-ring return, if I'm not mistaken, as well, on that Dynamite prior to the All Access show. So we shall see. For me, I don't know, guys. I'm kind of for me in one aspect, I'm really excited for it because it's a good sign, right? It shows that AEW and Warner Brother have a strong relationship and a strong foundation there. So I mean, I'm pretty confident a network wouldn't offer you more TV program if they are on the way out with you. You know what I mean, or just not happy with ratings or anything like that. So obviously, that's a good sign in that regard. But and I am happy. So we'll get some pros out of the way. I am happy it's not an additional third hour to Dynamite. I think for whatever reason, just that third hour straight of a wrestling show, which CC Raw is just a killer. You know what I mean? It's just knowing that you have that third hour just to drag on, and that's what it is. It's drag. Even if it's a really good episode, it's like you're still dedicating 3 hours of your life every week, and it's too much. It's just too much. So I'm happy it's not an extension of Dynamite. So, and look, we're not obligated to watch. You know what I mean? No one is holding a gun to us saying, "Hey, you have to watch this show," as if you're an AEW fan or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I think it'd be cool. You know, if we get an additional, if it's a special command on Saturday, that'd be a cool little hour show. If it's what it'd be, I think there was rumors that Saturday at 6:05, like old WCW shows and NWA shows back in the day. I wouldn't want to do that because the NWA does already do that or did that in the past. So just kind of leave that alone. But hey, still do a Saturday show. Maybe do what? Six would be kind of, I don't know, six would maybe be fine, but don't do 6:05. It's just a little too cute there. But yeah, I mean, unless it's gonna be like an afternoon show. But I could see probably being either 6 or 8. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's what I have asked for this? Probably not, but I mean, it does give the talent that are on the roster, another pro, more time, you know, more development, more opportunity, especially with their house show or yeah, their house shows that they're doing now. And I think they just did their first one last week, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know. It's a good sign, right? Like I said, it's a good sign that the networks are happy with AEW and especially Warner Brother because I think that it's a great fit for them in AEW. I think that's the perfect station between TNT and TBS for them. So we'll see. A lot of fans that I kind of saw on Twitter just were kind of negative about it, just saying, "Oh, the last thing we need is more like wrestling to watch." Which yeah, I guess could be true in a lot of ways. But again, like I said, no one's forcing you to watch it. You know what I mean? It's a pro for AEW and a positive for AEW, so I'm here for it. You know what I mean? Like I said earlier, I want all wrestling companies to thrive. I think that should be what we want as fans. Whether or not you're gonna watch everything that's put out. And look, we are overloaded to the max. You know what I mean? Like there's gonna be program literally on every day at this point during the week. So just don't watch. If you don't want to watch it or you're not excited about it or you think it's too much, just don't watch, my dude. Just carry on with whatever you're going to do in your everyday life. You know what I mean? But I'm happy for AEW and I think that's a good sign. But with that being said, we will shift over to the WWE portion of things. We'll kind of get into the WrestleMania news, which obviously is the big talking points going in. I think we're what, 2 weeks out now? Yeah, about 2 weeks out from WrestleMania, which is fucking crazy. A little over 2 weeks out. So we'll start with the additions and the announcements for the Hall of Fame, which of course is being headlined by Rey Mysterio, which is really cool. It was Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio and Great Muta announced going into the Hall of Fame this year, with a few names still to be added. Rather, I believe, yeah, it was confirmed that Conan will be the one doing the induction for Rey Mysterio. I saw some report earlier today, which I didn't read the actual article, but there was rumors that there was still negotiations going on between Conan and WWE for the induction of Rey. So not sure if that's true or not. But if that's the case, I hope they get that worked out because we're not that far out. You know what I mean? But just pausing real quick on the Rey induction, I fucking can't wait to see what Dominic does at the Hall of Fame. They have to do something. Him and Rhea have to do something. Um, Whether that's the final straw that sets up the official match at WrestleMania, which, if I'm not mistaken, the Hall of Fame is going to be like the Thursday or Friday before. Um, the WrestleMania weekend. So that's kind of waiting to the last minute. I mean, yeah, us fans already know it's pretty much a given, but I don't know if that's pushing it too far. But regardless, whether if that's what is the final straw, me personally, I think as morbid as it sounds, I think Dom should do something to either his mother or his sister because we've seen both of them on TV, WWE TV in the past specifically, and his sister, blanking on her, I think it's Aaliyah. I think her name is Aaliyah. She was involved in the past. She remember was the unofficial girlfriend to Buddy Murphy, which is kind of ironic to think about now because just seeing Dominic and Rhea together now, and Rhea and Buddy are together in real life. It's just like it's really. I just thought about that. It's just kind of funny. Anyway, but yeah, I just think, especially with what they've been doing on every holiday, like it would be, I would be shocked at this point if Rhea and Dom don't do something at the Hall of Fame ceremony, which is just gonna be so perfect because they've protected the Hall of Fame and kind of kept the prestige and just the seriousness of it, and just the fact that no storylines are ever advanced or anything like that, like, or no angles are had at the event itself. I think that would make it that much more impactful, and I'm just so here for it. I'm so excited, like just thinking about it here now. And Dom has been my MVP. Dom has been he has been quite the surprise, and the just I don't even want to say guilty pleasure because I'm not, I don't even feel guilty about it. Like, dude is just great. Like, he's one of my favorite parts of every show that he's on, and I love that he's on SmackDown now as well. I love that Rhea Ripley is still his mommy, right? And still attached to him, and they're still doing their own thing. But she's doing her own thing too. She's still being her own badass, and she's going for the championship against Charlotte Flair. And I love just a couple weeks ago how we saw the interaction between Dominic and Charlotte, and just that dynamic there, just with their family history and both being what second generation stars. That's really cool and just really something fun to play off of. So I'm just here for everything Dominic, Rhea, and Charlotte as well. I think Charlotte has been doing a very, very good job in on her return and playing her role, you know. And I think Charlotte is another one of those people who gets a lot of shit for whatever reason. Well, for reasons we all know, but it's just kind of stupid at this point because people act like she sucks in the ring. You know what I mean? Like, granted, there are, I guess, a couple things, but like, who are we to say she sucks in the ring, first of all? You know what I mean? And yeah, if there's a spot where like she maybe doesn't connect, like shit happens. You know what I mean? Like, there's shit that I do every day on a daily basis that doesn't connect. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. It's just bonkers to me how, but yeah, if it's like she's injuring people or she's not safe in the ring and shit like that, then yeah, that's a whole other conversation, right? But chick is hella talented. She has the family lineage. I don't know. She's great in the ring, and she's good on the mic. Like, I don't understand the hate there, but that's a whole other topic for a different day. But with that being said, I wrapping it back to the Hall of Fame, I think they would be remiss to not do anything with Dom and Ray at the Hall of Fame ceremony. Yeah, I would be shocked if they did it. So here, putting that in the universe, which I'm sure other people have already talked on, and it's nothing like, oh my god, like I can't believe we thought of that. Like, it's pretty obvious. I feel like at this point, so I can't wait for that. So any of y'all going to the Hall of Fame, y'all are probably in for a real treat this year. But moving back to the actual inductees this year, a lot of people had expected this year for Batista to go in, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to based on some scheduling conflict. And another name that was reported to go into the year or to go in this year was Stacy Keibler. Apparently, they claim she's one of the biggest female stars of the Attitude Era and also a Divas legend. Which, yeah, she is, I guess, a Divas legend. I guess I don't know why, but the first thing that stood out to me, or the first thought rather, was her in the Dudley Boys. I think the Duchess of Dudleyville, if you guys remember that. It just really rounded them out very well, and I think she was really cool with them. But one of the biggest female stars of the Attitude Era, that kind of like maybe I don't know. But yeah, definitely I guess a legend, you know, quote unquote, for all intents and purposes of the word. So I I mean, and Tori Wilson is in there, so it just makes sense, right? So that's not really that surprising to me. I almost just kind of makes sense, you know what I mean? But I don't believe as of this reporting it has been confirmed yet. But they also, let's see. Yeah, it looks like that's all we have listed as of right now. Of course, we in the Great Muta, like I mentioned earlier. But I'm surprised they haven't actually listed more names yet, which we'll probably get some more tonight on Monday Night Raw, which would be really exciting. But for me, the Hall of Fame this year is made for Ray and Dom. So I can't wait to see that, and just to see the disgust that's going to be on his mom's face, because she's probably going to be front row, if not front row, like the first few rows. So it's just I just can't fucking wait. I just can't fucking wait, guys. But with that being said, we will continue with the WrestleMania talk here, and another gentleman that you guys may have heard of. His name is John Cena. He has been in the news this week. I believe it was this past week, rather. And I was actually kind of surprised by his comments, so we'll kind of get into that really quick. John Cena was asked about his feelings that he has regarding Vince McMahon, considering the sexual misconduct allegations that surfaced and resurfaced last year. Again, when everyone lost their mind because Vince was backstage at Raw in Boston a couple weeks ago. It was reported that he was there just to see John and to see maybe a couple other people, but him and John are really close. So in Boston, I don't know if you guys are aware, but it's not, of course, if you're not in the US, you wouldn't. But all of us Americans here, if you aren't aware, Boston isn't that far from Connecticut, guys. So it's not really that shocking that Vince would want to make a trip to go see John and to see people that he probably hasn't seen in X amount of months. Yeah, he was sitting in the gorilla position because where the fuck else is he gonna sit? It's not like he would have an office. I mean, I'm sure they can obviously clear out a space for him, right? But I don't know. I don't know. Like, to me, it's really intriguing the shit that people get bent out of shape for. And look, if it turns out he is back in creative power and he has been the entire time, then yeah, I'll come on here and say I was an idiot and talk shit about that, talk shit about myself and whatever. But I don't know. Like, I'm just not freaking out about that. And like I said earlier, until I see something that warrants a oh my god, Vince is back type of shift in creative, I ain't scared. I ain't scared, guys. But with that being said, John Cena was asked about his feelings, like I said, regarding the Vince McMahon sexual misconduct allegations that surfaced last year, and with Vince stepping down. During a recent interview, it looks like with the Associated Press, he was asked if it had been hard to reconcile rather his feelings that he has for Vince considering the allegations that are out there. And John Cena said the following. He said, quote, "No, it's not hard to reconcile the feelings that I have for Vince with the allegations against him. I mean, everyone has the right to have their perspective. I have the right to have mine. When you love somebody, you take them as imperfectly perfect as they are. We all make mistakes. We all have poor decisions. Lord knows I've made my collection of poor choices. That doesn't mean I'm not going to love somebody. There's no way I can go on record and say I don't love Vince McMahon." He was also asked about the fact that WWE could potentially be on the market amidst reports of the company being for sale, which we'll touch on in a second as well. John Cena says, quote, "That's way above my pay grade. I just don't know what's going on with that. I love Vince McMahon. He's everything you could want in a great friend, business partner, father, mentor. I love the man, but his business dealings are his business, and what he shares with me, that's between us. But I don't know what's going on with the corporate structure in the WWE or the creative direction of the WWE. But when I'm there as a performer, it's WWE Champion Roman Reigns' show. In my mind, he needs to be in the conversation, and in my mind, he's the greatest of all time," which was so fucking random. That answer was so random. And they go on to say, when John was asked about why he came back to feud with Austin Theory, he would go on to explain that he didn't pick him, and he was simply told that that would be the feud he would be doing. He says, quote, "You'd be surprised at my answer because that's what I was told would happen. I don't do that. I don't say I want to do this. I want to work with that person. I don't ever do that. I've never done that. I just try to do what I'm told to do and to do it to the best of my abilities. Instead of dictating my terms, I often just try to make the performance the best it can be. What I don't do and what I've never done is carry the direction of the narrative. I don't pick opponents, but I love to tell stories. I didn't pick Austin Theory, but I certainly spoke from the heart on Raw." And if you guys saw what he said and what came from the heart on Raw, that was people have said demoralizing to Austin Theory. But he essentially tore him down. It was very similar to what happened between him and Roman Reigns back in 2015, I believe it was. And how he just decimated Reigns on the mic. And then now look at Roman Reigns now. Again, not saying that that's what's going to happen with Theory, but I'm a fan of Theory. I'm in the ballpark that Theory is going to be a big deal in the next few years. I don't, whether he becomes the actual champion in the next few years or not, I think he's going to be a main event guy. I just, there's just something about him to me, which makes it kind of even more surprising to me that a lot of people aren't on the bandwagon with him. And maybe I'm just, I don't know, maybe just giving him too much credit, but something about him, just something about Theory just stands out to me and just kind of like grabs onto me. So I'm here for him. I'm here for Theory. I'm very interested to see how it plays out with him and Cena, and to see how Theory gets his revenge on Cena. I'd be very shocked if Cena wins at WrestleMania. But I think the follow-up specifically, and especially on that Raw after Mania, especially since Cena brought that up specifically with the Theory promo, I think that's going to be key. I think that's going to be a big pivotal moment. So we'll see. But in regards to what Cena had to say about Vince McMahon, look, John Cena has his right, like he said, to have his own perspective and his own opinion. That's not necessarily my opinion, but look, I don't know Vince, you know what I mean? So I don't know him as a human being. I have never met him. Yeah, I where he says that, you know, we all make mistakes, we all have poor decisions. Lord knows I've made my collection of poor choices. That bad though? Like, I don't know, man. And to me, it's a sticky subject. I'm surprised he even said all that. I probably would have said no comment. You know what I mean? If I was specifically John Cena. But yeah, I'm surprised he even touched on it. And with regard, or yeah, with him in regards to the WWE potentially being on the market, his answer was just all over the place. He goes back to saying he loves Vince McMahon. They don't discuss the corporate side of things, and if he did, that's between them. And then he's there when he is there as a performer. It's about Roman Reigns' show. He's the champion. It needs to be about him, and he's the greatest of all time. Like, what? No one asked about Roman Reigns. Like, where the fuck did he come from? They wanted to know what you thought about the sale of the WWE and the potential sale of the WWE. No, nothing about Roman Reigns. Like, what? And nothing about Vince for that matter. Like, I mean, that makes sense. You know, Vince obviously is the owner, so it makes sense why you would mention him. But like, where the fuck did Roman Reigns come from? Like, but when I'm there as a performer, it's WWE champion Roman Reigns show. In my mind, he needs to be in the conversation, and in my mind, he's the greatest of all time. Okay, great. Like, I don't know. I think Cena has said the same thing about Brock Lesnar in the past too, about Cena or about Lesnar being the greatest of all time. So I don't know, man. It was just really fucking random, that last part to me. It just kind of like tickled me for whatever reason. But yeah, you know, whatever. John Cena has his right to his own opinion, just like we all do. And I respect him for even commenting on it. Like I said, I'm surprised he did. I would have expected him to say like a no comment, but he did. And kudos to him for having an opinion and actually talking and mentioning and just, I guess, addressing it, I should say. But the last topic that we have up here before we go over the lineup that we have so far for WrestleMania is just finishing up on the potential bids and potential buyers, rather, for the purchase of WWE as a company. There's rumors and reports that potential buyers are set to meet in April, which obviously after WrestleMania, and to kind of get the ball rolling after the WrestleMania. And looks like in preparations for the first round bid. So probably really soon after WrestleMania, I would say probably within the next or the week or two after, we'll probably start hearing some more rumors and more heavy speculation of potential buyers. I'm very scared if Saudi Arabia were to be one of them, and again, we'll dive into that boat if that does become a very serious thing. But yeah, guys, this thing. That's why, again, I was really surprised that a lot of reputable sources and news sites, I guess, rather, excuse me, jumped on the bait last a couple months ago. If that, when there was rumors that Saudi Arabia had purchased them and they were gonna announce it the following morning. Like, this is $1 billion publicly traded company. Like, this shit isn't just gonna happen overnight. Like, there's a lot that goes into it, a lot that I don't even know, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend to know, but like, even I know, like, shouldn't just gonna happen overnight. So we'll see. But again, I am on the boat as well, that I am very, very scared for what wrestling as a whole looks like if the Saudi Arabian government were to purchase WWE. But like I said, we'll get into all that if and when that does become a more heavier possibility. But with that being said, guys, the last thing I wanted to wrap up on here before we go is just the updated lineup for WrestleMania and what we have so far. Shout out to ProWrestling.net for the updated lineup that we have. But as of right now, WWE is advertising the following matches for WrestleMania 39, which will be held on Saturday, April 1st and Sunday, April 2nd in Inglewood, California at SoFi Stadium. Of course, with the headline of most likely night 2, we have Roman Reigns, your WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion, defending against the Royal Rumble winner Cody Rhodes. Charlotte Flair, which facing off against Rhea Ripley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. That's rumored to be possibly main eventing night 1, but for me, I don't see that. I could see a match that I'll touch on here in a second. Bianca Belair facing off against Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. That's definitely not headlining WrestleMania. Austin Theory facing off against John Cena for the U.S. Championship. Gunther versus Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus for the Intercontinental Championship, which is going to be fucking amazing and probably the match of the weekend. That's just going to be, I feel for them already. I hurt for them already. Next, we have Edge facing off against Finn Balor in a Hell in a Cell match, which would be really cool to see SL returning to WrestleMania. I think the last one was WrestleMania 32, if I'm not mistaken, between Undertaker and Shane in Dallas, I think. So that'd be pretty cool to see. We have Seth Rollins facing off against Logan Paul, which would be a really good match as well. I mean, Seth Rollins is fucking Seth Rollins, and Logan Paul is very good in the ring. People can't shit on him for his athletic ability. You know, say what you want about the dude, but dude is very athletic and very talented. So that's gonna be a really good match, and I'm looking forward to that one too. Next one, I don't really know if I can say the same. Brock Lesnar versus Omos. This match is booked just to see Brock Lesnar potentially give Omos the F5 and see if he can actually do it, which is intriguing. I'll give them that. So we'll see. We'll see. Next up, we have Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus, and Lita facing off against Damage Control, which is, of course, Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai. That'd be a fun match just for nostalgia purposes. I'm really happy Bayley is getting included, and they just have something to do on the card. Next, we have Braun Strowman and Ricochet facing off against Alpha Academy, which is Chad Gable and Otis, versus the Street Profits, which is, of course, is Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, versus the Viking Raiders, which, of course, is Eric and Ivar in a 4-way tag team showcase, which I don't really know why. We also have Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan facing off against 3 teams to be determined in a fatal a 4-way women's 4-way tag team showcase. Whew, say that 5 times fast. WWE also announced the men's 4-way tag team showcase match on Monday, so that's when that was officially made a thing. The Miz will be the host of WrestleMania 39, and they just go on to say that Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes will be held on Sunday, and Logan Paul announced that his match with Seth Rollins will be held on Saturday. The other matches have not been assigned a day as of right now. But also what is most likely going to be confirmed this week is going to be what I think should main event WrestleMania Night 1, and that being Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens facing off against the Usos for the WWE Undisputed, what are they called? WWE Tag Team Champions? Is it Undisputed? WWE Undisputed Tag Team Champions? It would make sense because they have Raw and SmackDown, so I'm going to call it that. But that just makes sense to me. I think that with the strength of the storyline of the bloodline for however long it's been now, and just how beautifully woven both main events are and how beautiful both are tied together, I think that it's like a no-brainer. And this is coming from a female. Just because you have 2 WrestleMania nights doesn't mean that the women have to main event one night, unless it's obviously, if it's a given. If this was WrestleMania 35, absolutely the women should main event. And not even saying that there's not time for maybe like Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair to get a little bit more steam in main event night 1. I'd be stoked. You know, I think, like I said, I think they very easily could, but with that tag team match, I just feel like now's the time to get a good tag team championship match in the main event at WrestleMania. So I just I feel like that's it. And I feel like Charlotte, what the fuck? I feel like I combined them. Charlotte Flair and Rhea should open night one. I think they would be a good, a great match to open the show. I think if you don't want to close the show, you want to open the show. So that's what I would do personally. Have them open night one, get the night going on the right pace, have Rhea win, go over and be the champion, have that great celebration, that great feel good moment, and then just fucking go from there. So that's my early prediction for the WrestleMania lineup so far. I guess match order rather. And that's just our weekly recap, guys. I wanted to sit down and do something. It's been a little bit, and I thank you guys so much for sticking around and for checking out the show. If I end up posting this on YouTube, I appreciate you guys for watching it. Just wherever you listen to, wherever you check it out, I really appreciate it. And until next time, guys, I hope you have an awesome week.